manufacturers and asset owners come together to tackle the conversations that actually shape our industry, the protective coatings industry. And I'm glad that you're here, whether you're tuning in from a job site, a plant, a pickup truck, or you're kicking back at home. On this broadcast, we'll explore topics that really strike a nerve. And last week, I asked a simple question on LinkedIn. Does the protective coatings industry need a new association? One focused on technical excellence, practical field knowledge, and real professional development. Now, each of the poll answers in their selections and your responses really to that poll that I posted, well, it really told a powerful story. 30% of you said yes, that it was absolutely needed. And another 30% said, not sure yet. 21% said, no, this isn't necessary. And 18% yes, but only with a niche focus. Now, that's not just a split vote. That's a snapshot of an industry emotion, an industry questioning its very future, and an industry ready to talk openly about what's working and what isn't working. So this evening, I'm here to advocate not for a new association or to tear down an existing association. I'm simply here to explore the current landscape of the protective coatings industry honestly. What gaps do professionals feel? What strengths does current associations have? And if a new coatings industry consensus association were to emerge, what would it need to deliver to earn your trust and your membership? Now, this is your conversation. I want your insights. I want your opinions. And your voice really matters in shaping where this industry called protective coatings goes next. So settle in, drop in your thoughts in the comments, and let's get into this. Because the protective coatings community is weighing in, and the results are too important to ignore. Now, before I get into that poll, I want to say thank you to Apelix Spray Painting Drones because they are bringing you this broadcast. And they are the solution providers and leaders in robotic spray painting technology for industrial coatings. So if you're an industrial painting contractor or an asset owner and you're looking to boost productivity, improve safety, and deliver more consistent coating results on vertical structures, it's time to take a serious look at spray painting drones from Apelix. These are not consumer drones. They're purpose-built, engineered industrial drones that solve real field-level challenges, and they support your bottom line, as well as provide you additional revenues and profits, all with the use of drones. Now, Apelix spray painting drones allow your crew to apply liquid coatings to elevated or hard-to-reach surfaces without ever stepping onto scaffolding or getting into a lift. That means fewer safety risks, fewer delays, and dramatically lower setup costs. And because the drone maintains a precise standoff distance and also travel speed, you get a uniform field build. You get reduced overspray and repeatability of quality across every pass. Now imagine completing a tank exterior or a stack or a tall structure in a fraction of the time with a smaller focused crew safely on the ground. They're going to be managing the operations. So keep in mind what the power of Apelix is. It's not about replacing the painter. It's about augmenting your production, your crews, to give your team a smarter, safer, and more efficient way to work. If you want to improve margins, show that you're an innovator and that you deliver higher quality results with smaller labor demands, Apelix spray painting drones are the competitive edge that you've been waiting for. Just email me at jim@procoattech.com to learn more about Apelix and discover how drone applied coatings can transform your next project. So, big question. Why does this question matter now? It matters because the global coatings industry is expanding. It's diversifying and it's digitizing. Right now, the protective coatings industry is in one of the most dynamic periods that we've ever seen in decades. There are newer technologies, there are newer materials, there are newer digital tools, AI, that are reshaping how we specify, how we apply, how we inspect, and how we maintain protective coating systems. from AI assisted inspections to advanced polymer chemistries to globalized supply chains. The pace of change is accelerating, and with that acceleration comes a growing need for clarity, for consistency, and shared technical understanding across borders and disciplines. Now, at the same time, the workforce itself is diversifying. We have veteran inspectors working alongside those up and coming new inspectors. We've got engineers that are collaborating with data analysts these days, and contractors that are navigating increasingly complex owner requirements for their operations. This blend of experience and innovation, it's powerful, but it also creates friction points. As the industry evolves, professionals are asking whether our current structures are keeping up. And that's why this question, do we need a new association in protective coatings, is landing with such intensity right now. Now, existing associations, they serve board mandates. Let's just keep it plain and simple. But are they meeting today's technical and professional needs of our industry? Because our industry already has respected associations that have shaped standards, certifications, and professional development for decades. Their contributions are undeniable, but as the field becomes more specialized and more global, many professionals are wondering whether those broad mandates can still deliver the depth, the agility required for today's challenges. Now, the LinkedIn poll that I ran and the results, they really reflect that tension. Some feel it's underserved and fewer feel well supported, but a growing many are unsure. And this isn't about criticizing an existing association. It's about acknowledging that the industry needs have changed. Field professionals want more practical training. Engineers want more technical rigor. Owners want clearer pathways to competency. And younger professionals want modern, accessible, digital-first learning. And when you put all that together, it raises a fair question. Are the current associations in protective coatings positioned to deliver that next generation of technical leadership for the global protective coatings industry? And so that's why this discussion and this conversation really matters. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the poll itself and really what it reveals about industry sentiment. I do like Bugman. I do like this where you said and traceability. That is really good too. When I asked the community whether a new coatings association is needed, the responses were strikingly balanced. 30% said yes, absolutely needed. That's 30%. Another 30% said not sure yet. 21% said no, this isn't necessary. And 18% said yes, but only with niche focus. Now, that distribution, it really does tell us something important, that the industry is not completely aligned, but it is engaged. People are thinking about this. People are talking about this, and people are ready to explore the idea openly. What the results really reveal is a moment of reflection, a moment where professionals across the globe are evaluating whether the current ecosystem supports their growth, their challenges, and their future. And some see gaps, some see strengths, some see opportunities for specialization, and many simply want more information before forming an opinion. And that's exactly why I'm here live to unpack the perspectives, understand the drivers behind them, and give the coatings community a space to weigh in with clarity and honesty. So let's talk about the 30% who say absolutely needed. And I want to start with this group because they were really the strongest in the poll, in my opinion. The 30% who's without hesitation said yes, an absolutely new association in protective coatings is needed. Now, this group isn't lukewarm. They're not cautiously optimistic. They're signaling a clear belief that something fundamental is missing in the current landscape of associations. And when you listen to their comments and you read their comments, you hear their frustrations and also, too, understand exactly what they're looking for. A pattern does emerge. They want an association that's built around the realities of the field, not just the frameworks of a controlled board. And for many in this group, The call for a new association isn't about replacing anything. It's about filling gaps that have grown wider and wider and wider over time. They're looking for deeper technical rigor, more practical training, and a stronger connection to the day to day challenges that are faced by the applicators, the inspectors, the contractors, the asset owners, and the professionals that are in protective coatings. They want an association that moves at the speed of the industry, not the speed of an association bureaucracy. And they want a place where their voices of working professionals, where it carries real weight in shaping not only industry standards, education, the coatings industry, and also best practices. Another theme from this group is agility. They're asking for an association that can respond quickly to emerging technologies, explore new materials, evolve really safety and government requirements. And they want a body that can update guidance rapidly, support digital learning, and deliver training that reflects the reality of the modern job sites. It could be anything from robotics and automation to AI assisted inspection and advanced coding systems. In their view, the industry has outgrown the structures that were built decades ago that are still being dragged along. And they're ready for something built for the next decade, but not the last one. And finally, this group sees opportunity. They believe that a new association could unify technical expertise, elevate professional standards, and create a global platform for collaboration. They're not just pointing out what's broken, they're imagining what could be built, a more accessible, more collaborative, more technically focused association that empowers professionals at every level. Whether you agree with them or not, their conviction is clear. They see a future where a new association could drive progress, innovation, and professional growth in ways the current ecosystem isn't fully delivering. So let's talk about the 30% who are not sure yet. Now, this is another larger group that was tied to this poll. The 30% who said they're not sure yet. And honestly, this group might be the most important voice in the entire conversation. They're not rejecting the idea of a new association, but they're not really ready to endorse it either. They're signaling that they need more information. They need more clarity. They need more evidence before they can take a position in a way. Now, they're going to be holding a lot of things up to a mirror and really looking at the entire protective coatings industry and asking the question, you need to show us the value, show us the purpose, and show us the difference of a new association. And for many in this group, the hesitation isn't rooted in resistance. It's rooted in caution. They've seen the consolidation of associations. They've seen initiatives start strong and fade quickly. They've seen promises made that didn't translate into real practical support for the coatings people that are doing the work. So their uncertainty is actually a call for transparency. They really want to understand what a new association would do differently, how it would be governed, how it would be funded, and how it would avoid duplicating what already exists. They're not sure yet is really a request for a clear vision. And another theme from this group is the question of value. They're asking, what specific problems would a new protective coatings association solve? What gaps would it fill? What benefits would it deliver that aren't already available through existing associations? Now, these are all fair questions, and they're the kind of questions that any new initiative, like a new coatings association, must be able to answer convincingly. This group wants to see a roadmap, not just talk. They want to see outcomes, not just intentions. And until they see that, they're staying in the middle. And finally, this group is watching the conversation unfold. They're listening to the arguments from both sides. They're paying attention to how the industry responds. They're evaluating whether the momentum behind this idea is strong enough, organized enough, and credible enough to justify moving forward. Their uncertainty isn't a barrier. It's an invitation for a deeper discussion, clearer communication, and more detailed exploration of what a new association could realistically achieve. In many ways, this group represents the swing vote of the protective coatings industry, and their questions deserve more thoughtful, honest answers. Now, the 21% who say no, not necessary. I want to shift to this 21% of the response who said no. A new coatings association is not necessary. This group is confident in their position, and their reasoning deserves to be heard clearly and respectively. For many in this camp, the argument is straightforward. The industry already has established protective coatings associations with long histories, strong infrastructures, and proven track records. These associations have issued standards. They've issued certifications and training programs and global networks that have shaped the protective coatings profession for decades. From their perspective, the foundation is already there and it's solid. This group often emphasizes that instead of creating something new, the industry should focus on strengthening and modernizing what already exists. They argue that fragmentation could dilute influence. It could confuse professionals and create unnecessary competition for resources, attention, and membership. In their view, a smarter path is collaboration, not duplication. And they believe that existing associations can evolve, they can adapt, and they can expand to meet emerging needs. And that the energy behind this conversation might be better spent pushing for improvements within the current ecosystem rather than building a new one from scratch. Another key point from this group is a concern about sustainability. Launching a new coatings association is not a small undertaking. It requires sizable funding, governance, staffing, credibility, and long-term commitment. The no voters question whether the industry currently has the appetite or the bandwidth to support another new association. They've seen initiatives from the past start with enthusiasm, but struggle to maintain momentum. They've seen well-intentioned initiatives fade because the workload, the politics, or the financial realities become too heavy. Their caution is rooted in experience, not resistance. And finally, this group believes that the core needs of the coatings industry, technical guidance, professional development, networking, and standards, are already being met at least to a functional degree. They acknowledge that improvements are always possible, but they don't see gaps large enough to justify building an entirely new structure. Their message is essential. Let's optimize what we have before we create something new. Whether you agree with them or not, their perspective brings balance to the conversation. And it reminds us that innovation doesn't always mean starting over. Sometimes it means refining, strengthening, and modernizing the existing institutions into an evolved future state. Now, let me answer some. Looks like we've got some posts on here, and so I want to bring these up and address them. So Bugman says here, how does this relate to the coming together of NACE and SSPC? Why did they merge instead of saying separate entities? Bugman, this is a great question. And really, the idea of bringing NACE International and SSPC, the Society for Protective Coatings, together, at that time when that vote happened, it made a lot of sense to take two associations that were very powerful, one more so in corrosion, the other in industrial coatings, and to pull them together because it made more sense to have a singular entity. But when you think about it, you're combining a corrosion and a coatings association, and they're trying to make them into a larger association. To some people, they might say that in a way could dilute the focus of both of those associations. And I think a lot of times when you're looking at what the current state of AMP is, that I think that argument that AMP has a lot of capability, it's proven that it can do a lot. But also, too, I do think it still needs to go through a lot of changes and things like that. I'm going to leave it at that. And that's a good question you brought up. But if other people who are listening and watching this live and also in the replay, please feel free to post comments about what you think about the merger between NACE International and SSPC. Jeff Bogren says more contractor prep and coating contractors who feel they're not being serviced enough by AMP. Very valid point, Jeff. Very valid point. And then also to we are helping the water jet, the water jet association to associate with AMP. So there's so many other organizations, associations out there to really pull together and collaborate together. Now, let me jump into the 18% who say yes, but niche focus. And this group I find very interesting. And I've had a lot of conversation over the last 2 or 3 days after this poll was posted regarding this niche focus aspect. In this 18%, like I say, they feel yes, but be really kind of narrow focused on this. And it does make a lot of sense based on what I've heard feedback from everybody. But this group really sits in an interesting middle ground. So they're not really calling for a broad, all-encompassing coatings association that tries to cover everything, every corner of protective coatings world. Instead, what they're pointing to is specific gaps, areas where specialization, depth, or targeted support could make meaningful differences. And their message isn't build something big, it's build something more precise. And that distinction really does matter. So for many in this group, the protective coatings industry has become too complex. It's become too technical and too multifaceted for a single association. And you could make that same argument on the corrosion side too, a coatings and corrosion association to really be everything and meet every need. So they see value in associations that are more focused on specific segments, maybe inspection, craft workers, let's say on the contractor side, maybe pipeline integrity professionals, focusing on tanks and terminals, corrosion engineers, corrosion technicians, or even emerging fields like digital inspection, or where AI is starting to get involved to really kind of change the industry drastically. And looking at the resources that also will be needed for the future state of the protective coatings industry, currently that a broad general purpose organization or association, they're going to have a hard time dealing with that. It's too much, too big of a bite to take out of that apple. And another theme from the group is the desire for practical, field-driven expertise. They really want an association that speaks directly to the realities of the job, not just the theory behind it. And that means a lot more hands-on training, looking at real-world type of, let's say, case studies or research and things like that, practical troubleshooting and guidance that really reflects what actually happens on job sites and blast and paint shops, contractor operations, engineering teams that are working on specifications or large infrastructure projects that have corrosion and coatings. Let's focus on the coating side of it for those different type of projects, and really not just about writing standards. So that focus, as I would say some of them argue, could elevate the entire profession if it's more niche focused. And this group also sees niche associations as complementary to existing association. Jeff talked about the water jet association and things like that. Very specialized, right? Very focused, gives them a lot of power and opportunity working in water jetting, right? And they can collaborate with other associations and do crossovers and other collaborative efforts as well. So they really imagine a network of specialized associations that really support each other, that they share knowledge, and they strengthen the broader industry ecosystem. So in their view, specialization isn't fragmentation, it's refinement. And it's a way to ensure that every segment of the coatings industry has a home, a voice, and a pathway for professional growth. And finally, the niche focus group is thinking about the future. They see emerging technologies, new regulatory pressures, and the still challenging and shifting workforce demographics. They know that the next generation of coatings professionals in skilled labor will need training and support that looks very different than what existed 20, 10, 5 years ago. A niche association in their eyes could be built from the ground up with a modern tools, digital learning, global accessibility, and rapid content development. It needs to be agile enough to evolve with the industry, not lag behind it. Whether or not a niche associations ever become reality, this group brings a valuable perspective to this conversation. They're not asking for something bigger, they're asking for something sharper, something more focused, something more specialized, something more built with intention. And their voices add another layer to the depth of this discussion about what the coatings industry needs, what it values, and where it might be headed. So now let's talk about what a new association could look like. So now that we've explored the four viewpoints from that poll, that LinkedIn poll, let's shift into a different mode, not debating whether a new association should exist, but imagining what one could look like in an industry ever dedicated and built that really kind of built it. This is not a proposal. This is not a blueprint. This is simply an exercise in possibility based on the needs, the frustrations, the aspirations that professionals across the globe have shared on Coatings Talk and with me. Think about this as a thought experiment also too, a way to visualize what better might look like, regardless of whether it comes from a new association or from strengthening the ones we already know. If a new association were to ever be created, its foundation would need to be built on clarity of purpose, not a broad catch all mission, but a focused commitment to technical excellence, practical field support, and professional development. It would need to serve the people who actually apply the coatings, inspect those assets, manage those projects, and make decisions in the field. That means prioritizing hands on training, real world case studies, and guidance that reflects the realities of modern job sites, not just the theory behind them. It would need to be an association that listens first, responds quickly, and evolves continuously. One of the biggest opportunities would be in the area of technical committees and working groups. Imagine committees that are not just academic or administrative, but deeply connected to field experience. Those inspectors, those applicators, those engineers, those chemists, those asset owners that will be working side by side in these committees. And these groups could tackle emerging technologies, newer materials, environmental regulations, safety practices, and digital workflows. They could produce guidance that is practical, accessible, and globally relevant. And because the industry is changing so quickly, these committees would need the agility to update recommendations in months, not years. So as things change, so should these standards. Another major component would be education and credentialing. A modern association could build a digital first learning pathway that are accessible anywhere in the world and also affordable anywhere in the world. There could be anything from live stream courses, micro credentials, modular training, and AI supported learning tools. Certifications could be structured around real competencies that are always evolving, and continuing education could be more flexible. And importantly, it's got to be affordable and aligned with the actual skills that are needed in the field. Now, this is an area where a growing number of professionals feel underserved today, and it represents one of the biggest opportunities for improvement of an existing association or a new association. Governance also matters. A new coatings association needs transparency. It needs accountability and representation from across the coatings industry, not just manufacturers, not just owners, not just contractors, but it's got to have a balanced mix of voices. Decision making would need to be clear and transparent. Funding models would need to be sustainable but fair and also have oversight. And the association would need to avoid the pitfalls of bureaucracy that slow down innovation and frustrates its members. In other words, it would need to be built with intention, not tradition or building rigid structures. And finally, a new association would need to embrace the global nature of our industry. Yes, I'm in North America, and we have a lot of demands here, but we can address those here and also address global initiatives and global needs as well. So remember that the protective coatings industry is not a regional profession anymore. It's really evolved to more a global aspect. You've got standards, you've got training, you've got best practices, And that has to reflect that reality of a global world. A modern association could create international collaboration networks, multilingual lingual resources, and regional specific guidance. You can still have the region specific stuff, but it all has to align with global principles. It could begin a hub for knowledge exchange across continents, industries, and also disciplines. And again, this is not a pitch. This is not a plan. This is simply a look at what professionals say that they want. They want agility, they want clarity, they want technical depth, they want practical support, and also, too, they need global accessibility. Whether those needs are met by a new association in the coatings industry or by strengthening the ones that already have and are still out there as associations, that is an open question. But imagine the possibilities helping us understand these gaps, these opportunities, and a direction the industry may be really heading. Before I close out the stream, I got to give a big shout out to Five and Rising, their line of Pro Coat Tech wearables. We are getting out of hoodie season, but I highly recommend scoring yourself a new hoodie from Pro Coat Tech. So before we close out this broadcast, I want to take this moment to highlight something special for our Coatings Talk community. Our friends over at Five and Rising have officially launched a new collection featuring 2 exclusive Pro Coat Tech wearables, the Fit for Purpose hoodie and the Fit for Purpose t-shirt. These pieces were designed with the same mindset we bring to our industry. They're purpose-driven, they're durable, and they're built for people who take pride in their craft. Whether you're in the field, a shop, or representing the coatings and corrosion world at a social gathering, these wearables let you carry that message with you. The discount for first-time buyers is 10%, and this discount is only available by those who sign up for the Five and Rising email list. It's quick, it's simple, and it unlocks your savings. So if you want to grab the hoodie, the t-shirt, or both, now is the perfect time to jump in and support a brand that supports this community. Also, make sure you check out Five and Rising because they sell a lot of other stuff supporting both coatings and corrosion as well. So, is it time for a new coatings association? And this is where you have to answer the question. It's not going to be me. As we wrap up today's conversation, one thing is absolutely clear. This question, whether our industry needs a new protective coatings association, it's bigger than a simple yes or no. It's a reflection of where we are as a global community. And also, it's a reflection of our growth, our challenges, and our frustrations, and our aspirations. It's a reflection of the passion professionals bring to this field every single day. We heard from 30% who believe a new association is absolutely needed. 30%. Now, these are professionals who see gaps in technical training, practical support, and field-driven leadership. We heard from the 30% who said, not sure yet. These are thoughtful voices asking for clarity, transparency, and clear value proposition before taking a position. And we've heard from 21% who say no. Those who believe our existing associations are strong, that they're capable and deserving of our continued support, right? And investment and also modernization. And we heard from the 18% who support the idea, but only as a specialized niche form, a focused approach built around depth, agility, and precision. Now, these 4 perspectives they don't really divide us. They really kind of define us. And they show that we're an industry willing to think critically. We've got to speak honestly, and we've got to challenge the status quo when necessary. They show that we care deeply about the future of our profession, the quality of our work, and the development of the next generation. And they show that we're not afraid to ask hard questions, even when the answers aren't always obvious. So whether a new coatings association ever becomes a reality is not the point of today's discussion. The point is that the conversation itself matters. It forces us to examine what's working, what's not working, and what we expect from the associations that represent us. It pushes us to think about how we train, how we collaborate, how we innovate, and how we support the people who keep critical infrastructure protected each and every day. So as we close out, I want to thank every one of you who voted, who commented, shared your perspective with me, or just simply listened with an open mind to this live stream. This is how progress happens, not through declarations, but through dialogue, not through assumptions, but through engagement, and not through one voice, but through many. The future of this industry will be shaped by the people in it, and that's you. And whether that future includes a new association in coatings or strengthening the existing ecosystems of associations or something completely different, the most important thing is that we keep talking, we keep questioning, and we keep pushing for excellence in protective coatings. And thank you for being part of this conversation. And thank you for being part of this community. And thank you for helping shape what comes next. Please have a good rest of your evening, your night, or morning, no matter where in the world you're watching this live broadcast. Please like and also share this broadcast because it's available in archive after I'm done with the stream. Thank you very much.